Right, get comfy. Right, where should we start? Let's go back to uni, because a lot of people who see me now, when I tell them the stories that I had at uni, they're like, nah, not a chance you were like that, Louis. So go back to it, 2018, uni life. Now, we all have an absolute fat time at uni. So many unreal stories, just getting pissed all the time, doing mad things, taking mad things, just having a great time. It was unreal. I've got so many good stories from uni, and I'll never ever forget about them. You go to cities with your mates and you just get pissed out your head, and it's unreal. but yeah, this person who I am today is not who I've always been. You know, there was a lot of drinking back in the day. There's a lot of drug taking, chasing girls, doing all sorts of stuff like that. And although it was fun, and between the years of 2018, 2020, 2021, it was a buzz, but there was other stories where I was questioning, like, why am I doing this sort of life? You know, I remember being on some sort of narcotic in Manchester. We just had a day out in Liverpool, and a few of the lads were going back to this club in Manchester, and I joined them, and I was already not feeling amazing, but I went anyway. And one girl that I was going out with at the time, we had an argument, and I just remember leaving the club 3 a.m. in the morning and just sat outside being that guy. I was crying outside the club at 3 in the morning, off my face. And I was like, this can't be the life I want to live. I look back at that, I used to cringe back in the day. I cringe looking back to it, but I think times like that, if they didn't happen, then it won't have led to me being here today, you know. So uni, pissed head, getting on it, having a fat time, but also times I'm like, I can't be living like this anymore. Then lockdown comes and everything gets paused. So I'm still at uni, but everything's having to be at home. So I went to go back live with my parents in Newcastle, and things just changed. Like the drinking culture stopped because I'm not just going to get pissed by myself. At the time I was doing MMA, a bit of Muay Thai even, like Thai boxing. So I just randomly bought a punch bag. We got a punch bag up in this little spare room, and I was just beating the shit out of that all the time. Literally just coming up, I remember loads of pieces of paper on the wall, each one with little workouts, little drills, just do it every single day. Every single day just train Muay Thai and just smash that up. And then I wasn't really a runner before. I wouldn't call myself a runner. But I started doing the odd 5K. People were doing that, do 5K, tag 5 friends sort of thing. So I'd do that. And then I remember one day in lockdown, I just said to my mum, right, Mum, tomorrow I'm going to do a half marathon. It's happening. I don't care, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do a half marathon. Never done one before. I'm just going to do it, whatever. I woke up the next day, it's pissing it down. I'm like, shite. So, but I've already told my mum. My mum's accountability partner, going for this run, are you, Louis? Right, yeah, I'm going for this run, come on. So I picked this route, it was like a figure of 8 route, and it was pissing it down, it was hilly, I was dying. And I think I did it in like 2 hours 20. I think I did the half marathon in 2 hours 20, and I still had about 200 meters walking back home. I remember that being like the worst walk in my life. And I sat in the bath feeling sorry for myself, shivering. And I was like, what have I just done there? But it was pretty cool because I've just done a half marathon and never done it in my life. And I thought it was the hardest thing ever. And we can talk about how that ends up progressing onto more things that I've done now. Yeah, that was lockdown. That was a big point in my life where obviously for a lot of people, things changed and I tried new things. I got into a new sort of lifestyle. And then when things started back opening up again, it sort of set the tone for that. So back to Manchester, back to finish uni. And again, at this point in my life, I was not really doing much. You know, I was still at uni. I was still drinking a fair little bit when I got back to it. Nothing special was going on. And I remember sitting down one night at home. I was back at my parents'. I just remember looking at this ultra MMA charity thing saying, sign up, 8 weeks training. Sign up to here today to start the next one starting in November or October. I think it was September when I was sat in my bed. And you know what? You know, we've all had those little F it moments. And I just did, I signed up to it. I've been doing the Thai boxing, but I hadn't done any of the jiu-jitsu or wrestling or anything. I was like, I'm just gonna do it, right? That's happening. So I signed up, and you get put in 8 weeks training. So we went to a gym called Fast Gym, which is in Salford, not far from where I was living. And you rock up 3-4 times a week, and they build you up your knowledge, your confidence, the training around the jiu-jitsu, the wrestling, the striking. You do sparring, you do conditioning. And for just 8 weeks, I just rocked up and did that. And that was pretty cool because, it taught me I could rock up and build discipline, consistency, persistence, all with this one goal in 8-9 weeks' time. And that was unreal. And it taught me routine. It taught me respect of others. It was a huge ego death. I think we've all got to sometimes face the ego. And that for sure humbled me, brought me back down to earth, which I probably needed at the time. And then fight night came. It was at the Bowlers Exhibition in Manchester. And they had other boxing fights going at the same time. So there was more than 3,000 people in this room. Huge. I remember a huge long walkway to the cage. And I had all my friends, all my family, everyone sat there watching. And I was like, this is a buzz. I feel like a celebrity. And the fight went down and it was just unreal. Like everything just zoned out. All this training had gone into this one thing. I remember fighting this guy. And before the fight, he was saying, "Oh, let's put on a show, Louis. Let's put on a show." Because he was more wrestling. He was already a member at the gym and stuff as well. And then I just remember the whole time, he was just trying to hold me against the fence. I was like, mate, let me throw some hands, come on. And that happened. And then it was amazing. 3 rounds, I drew. I didn't lose, but I didn't win. We drew the fight, which is okay. So I'm still undefeated as a fighter. I retired after that, still undefeated as a fighter. And that was just amazing, just doing something completely out of the comfort zone, quietening the ego, and just doing things I'm not used to. And I think that set the tone for what is happening today. But ironically, after that, nothing happened for a good year. I went on this whole self-development journey, reading a lot, looking at what I can build, but not really taking action on things. So that was amazing. 2021, first ever MMA fight, and that was just some completely surreal. I couldn't believe I've done that. Whether I do one again, I'm not going to say no. But right now I'm focused on a lot of other things, but it was a cool experience now. I can say that I've done that. This is all amongst uni as well. So we finished uni, got the degree. Now it's like a reality check, like, oh, I've got to go get a job now. So applying for all sorts, and I've somehow ended up in recruitment. I think because a lot of people fall into that line of work when they're not 100% sure what they want to do. So I spent a year and a half in recruitment. Started in September. I spent a year and a half in recruitment. It taught me a lot, to be fair. Again, I was stepping out my comfort zone a lot. Phoning strangers on the phone who are not expecting a call from you and trying to sell something. People don't like that. So I did get told to F off a few times on the phone. And yeah, it was hard. It was tough. I learned a lot. I learned how to deal with answers that you didn't want to get. I learned how to deal with tough people. Yeah, it was tough, but it definitely transferred onto a lot of things outside of recruitment. And it just got to a point, it was hard. And with the things, I'm not sure if any of you know about recruitment, but the salary is okay, but obviously the commission is where people go, and the commission can be very inviting. Now, it's a very pressured environment because if you're not making commission, essentially you're a cost to the business. So you're pushing to try and make commission. And you might be doing loads of calls, loads of work, and not getting anything in return. So it's hard to manage how that comes through. So you've got to resort back to something. If you've got a why, you've got to resort back to that, And November 2022, pretty soon after I started recruitment, my mum, we found out that she had a load of tumours on her liver and she needed a transplant. So there was quite a time for a pause sort of moment, and I related back to my why. So when I was struggling in recruitment and I wanted to do it, I was like, no, right, if I get the commission here, I can treat my mum, I can do things. I know it's quite deep, but I can do these things and try and help her and provide good experience and create memories with her. But then it got to the point where the work I was doing it didn't it didn't suffice, the work I was doing didn't align too much. So it got to a point where I needed to leave. It wasn't aligning with what I was doing anymore. It wasn't the environment I wanted to be in. So in the meantime, again, not sure what I wanted to do. My mate Mo was like, just get your level 2, level 3 qualifications, PT qualifications, and just do them. I was like, all right, worst case scenario, I've got 2 qualifications I never use. So I got them. In the meantime, I joined a residential gym in Manchester, just on the reception. So working 7 days a week now, just to build money up because I wasn't getting much commission. I wasn't the best at recruitment. And just build that up. And it got to the point where I knew I wanted to finish recruitment, but I couldn't just yet. I needed to figure it out. That's what I was doing work-wise. And then, I said I hadn't done anything for a while. After the MMA fight, I hadn't done anything. I was on that journey of self-development, but wasn't really taking action. My mum gets diagnosed and she needs a liver transplant. So, F it moment again. We're going to sign up to Manchester Marathon, which was April 2023 as well. So we sign up for the marathon. Training starts in Jan. Bearing in mind, the last long run I did was in lockdown, which was a half marathon, and absolutely died. And all I thought was like, how can people do double that? Not a chance. But this was a big turning point. This marathon and the training for the marathon was a big turning point. Now, obviously, we go back to the why. There's a big why as to why I was training. So when it got to those dark, cold, rainy mornings, the long runs, the runs I didn't want to do, having to rock up every day, I knew that if I rocked up, it was working towards that why, and it was doing my mum proud and helping her and giving her power and energy every day of the battle she was fighting as well. But this whole journey and training for the marathon, Manchester Marathon, taught me a lot because, again, you had to rock up every single day and do something and fit it around a life that you were not essentially enjoying at the time. It taught you discipline, it taught you routine, it taught you just to keep doing the thing regardless of results, or do the thing whether you want to do it or not. All because you know that there's going to be an end result and you've got to show up and do well for that end result, right? Which was the marathon itself. And it was one of the best experiences I've had to this day. Finishing the line, having my family there. My mum was in hospital at the time, so she couldn't come and watch. She was about to have her transplant literally within weeks of the marathon, so she couldn't come watch. Family were there to support, and Manchester obviously is an unreal city. So many people supporting you. You got your name on your tag, so you're getting all the support and everyone cheering you on. And I just remember crossing the finish line, bawling my eyes out, crying, FaceTime my mum straight away with the medal. I've done it, I've done it, I've done it. And it was mad, honestly. And I think that was, I did the MMA fight and nothing happened, but this marathon was like a gateway to so much more. And that took me on a journey which, accelerated becoming a person I'm closer to wanting to be, That same year, I signed up for the Athens Marathon, the OG marathon. You finish in the Panathinaikos Stadium, and it's unreal. That is one of the hardest things I've ever done. If you ask Mo did it with me, it was like 20K of pure incline. And when you're looking in front of you and you can see people up in the horizon, like up there, you're like, people shouldn't be up there. So you just knew you had to run up this flipping hill to get up there. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done up to the point. And got it done. Again, cried, emotional wreck when it comes to things like this. And the mother was there this time, which was absolute buzz. I forgot to mention that the mum had the transplant. Mum had the transplant, and it was a scary time because it was the first time I thought I was going to say bye to her. But she got through, and she's strong as ever now. For context, mum started running. She goes to the gym. She does sessions similar to like what we do with the engine stuff. And we're doing our first high rocks. We're doing a family relay in Manchester. So that's just amazing. Like, she's absolutely thriving. It's absolutely unreal to see. And she was there to watch Athens Marathon. Yeah, and this is just a gateway. So Athens Marathon, that led on to something else. What next? In the meantime, I was doing all of these high rocks races, signing up to these again, training for something with a purpose, building discipline, building routine, building consistency. That led to my first ultra marathon, Snowdonia, 57K. And that was amazing again. You start climbing up Snowdonia, 42K into the race. And after the marathon point, I remember looking at my watch, and it was just pretty cool. Like, anything I do now is the most I've ever been on my feet in my life, which is sick. You finish the race, that was amazing. That led on to other things. 100K was the most recent one. So I did a 100K ultra in July this year. That was with Rick, my mate Dan, and my other mate Adam. And that was unreal. Again, that's probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Again, you show up, you train, you rock up and do something that's hard, it's going to test you. And that reflects onto life. You know, if you can get through adverse times during a race, I remember having a feud against this bagel in my pocket at 95k in. I was so angry, I don't know why, and I was just tired. I remember feeling this bagel in my pocket. This is such a random story. And just looking at it and just going, fuck off, launching it into the field. So sorry, farmers. That's not my proudest moment, but little things like that happen. I don't know what. You just get into these little states of mind, but you get through it and you finish the 100k. We finished at 1:30 in the morning. And again, no one can take that away from me now. I've done that, and it's led on to more things. So for context, next September, me, Dan Sims again, and one of the other coaches at Urban Reform, Chris, we're doing a 180 kilometre run, 13 valleys of the Lake District. So that's the next challenge. And this is what this gateway's been. It came from doing the marathon to signing up to all sorts of marathons. Bearing in mind, back in lockdown, that half marathon was the longest I'd done. I was like, I will never, ever do anything more than that. I never classed myself as a runner. And it's mad. And now I'm signing up to 180k. Like, yeah, go on, 180k, let's do it. So that helped me progress a lot. I progressed a lot at that time in my life because I was showing up a lot to a physical feat. For me, it was physical. And I knew that I was going to get found out if I didn't train or build up for it. So that reflected in other signs of life. Now, in the meantime, as I was training for these sort of things, I was trying to get out of recruitment. I didn't want to be in that anymore. I didn't even know what I wanted to do, but I needed to do something. I had my qualifications at this point. So I transitioned from part-time at the residential gym, left recruitment in November 2023 now, and went full-time residential gym. Now, I don't want to be working full-time as a receptionist in a residential gym, but this was just, you know, I was staying afloat at this point. I was staying afloat, and this is just what had to be done. So I was working full-time. I started working a few classes as well, a couple of gyms in Manchester, and I was just figuring things out. I still didn't really know what I wanted, but again, I was just doing different things. If it didn't work, I'll go into something else. But right now, this was doing the job. And it was fun because once I got my qualification, I started PTing people at the residential gym. Some people reached out to me. I'd never done that before. I never really think I wanted to do that. But I just started doing that, helping people. And that was pretty cool. That was new, brand new. Never done anything like that before. And again, a little step, trying something new. I kind of liked it. You know, I quite liked helping people and getting them to become a better version of themselves. And around the same time, I wanted to go on a big holiday with my mate Rick. We were planning on going to Japan, but I was living a life where I was just about paying for rent. This job was just scratching the surface, and Japan's not a cheap holiday. But again, like if you want to go and do something, you figure it out. So I figured it out, picked up more classes, picked up more hours, just grafted away, saved a lot, and we went to Japan. March 2024, we went 3-week trip, or just shy of 3 weeks, trip around Japan, Tokyo, Osaka, Nara, Kyoto, all over the place. Like, honestly, that's probably one of the best trips I've ever been on in my life. Every day, you're doing something completely different to what you'd normally get used to doing. Loads of, even just the way you're eating, the way you're traveling. Every single day we were eating at new places, went to otter cafes, we were running around Tokyo. We did Tokyo half marathon. And it was just unreal. I was living this life. I was like, this is so cool. Now, Rick at the time was doing a business mentorship sort of program, and he volunteered to help me through it, you know, to try and create a bit of clarity in what I wanted to do. Because my parents were not too keen on me going to Japan. They knew I didn't have a lot of money. And they were like, Louis, you're going to F yourself. So I was like, well, I'm going anyway. And they were like, all right, go. You'll figure it out. But, you know, by the time you get back, you need to start applying for jobs again. But I remember the one thing I did not want to do ever again was apply for a job. I didn't want to go for the interview process. I didn't want to work with someone else, especially if it was not going to align with me. So I knew I had to figure something out. So whilst we were in Japan, me and Rick helped me for this mentorship program, and I started getting a little bit more clarity in what sort of thing I wanted to do. Now, I've always been interested in fitness and I've always been interested in the human mind, psychology. Ironically, I never studied psychology at uni. I did geography instead, and that's not helped at all. But I started putting something together, and I knew that with this journey I've been on, you know, from being someone who was a big pisshead who had no drive, who was just coasting through life, to now someone who is voluntarily signing up to all these fitness events, huge challenges, audacious challenges, and wanting more. There had to be some sort of shift in my mind. And so I became proactive in thinking what were the little things that helped me. And with these things that helped me, I put together a program, the Elevate Project. And the program was literally a 12-week program, and there was 12 lessons, and each one covered one of these little insights that helped me get to where I was at the time, which was a much better position than I was a couple of years ago beforehand. So I started pushing that and trying to help other people get to where they want to be based on these insights that helped me. It was an exciting time, but I was still not very clear. I was sort of doing it. I was getting the odd client here and there. I didn't know why I was posting. I didn't know what to post. I was not too sure. I was just trying to keep the ball rolling, you know, like, and one of the things Rick taught me in his mentorship program was iPhone 1, you know, just get something out that works. You know, you got the iPhone flipping 17 now, and it's 100 times better than the iPhone 1. But the iPhone 1 worked at the time, you know, and it's the same sort of thing. So the Elevate Project at the time was my iPhone 1, and it works, and I was figuring it out, and just, I was sort of coasting. I was still relying on working full time at this residential gym. So that was probably like a safety net for me. It's where I was quite complacent with the Elevate Project, didn't do too much, and just hoped for the odd client here and there. But I'm glad that I kept the ball rolling, even though it was moving slowly. So you hear some people, they'll make huge progress in their business, whatever it is, and I didn't make fast progress at all, you know, and part of me was questioning what I was doing, but I just knew I wanted to do something, so I kept chipping away at it very slowly. And I'm glad I did, because I've got to a point now where I have spent a lot of time on my vision with the business and a lot of time on what I'm wanting to do, where I'm wanting it to go, who I'm wanting to help. And because I've spent a lot of time on that, I'm starting to get real clarity and starting to really believe what I want to do with the Elevate Project and build that. So it's led to me investing in a new mentorship program, spending money that I don't really have on that. And it's led to me working every single day with clarity and planning days, planning weeks, planning months, planning year, looking ahead, visualizing what life can look like in 5 years' time if I build this thing, looking at exactly who I want to help, the type of person I want to help, how I can help him, refining the course, you know, building the website, building all these sequences to help anyone that feels like they need help, overcoming barriers for them. And that's what it's led to now. And again, I'm still keeping the ball rolling. It's still a work in progress. It's still not perfect, but that's fine. I've built something and I can now truly believe. I think when I first started, I didn't believe it. Obviously, I was helping less people, but the more people I've helped, I've started to believe that this is something that can work. And if I can believe myself, that's going to transcend into what other people are going to believe. If they think it can help them. But yeah, it's led to me today to a position where I'm no longer working at a residential gym. I'm teaching classes at places that really are a great opportunity to help people. You know, my huge thing is to help people create a life on their terms by becoming confident, by becoming clear in what they want to do, and being in control of everyday decision making. And the classes help do that. It's an opportunity to reach out to more people. But I'm now working on my life, on my terms, because of the steps that I've made through the years. So I've gone from someone who had no idea, just spent the time getting pissed up, chasing girls, things that didn't matter too much, to someone who worked full-time for someone else, didn't align with it, was not enjoying life, to someone who now voluntarily signed up for these audacious challenges and started figuring out stuff about myself, to someone who wanted to do their own thing and was sort of doing their own thing, but with no real clue what's going on and was pretty stagnant, to now someone who is making daily progress on my own thing, creating a life on my terms, which I want. I'm building confidence in myself. I'm building self-belief. I'm building clear thought processes, and I'm being in control of everyday decision making. And it's exactly why I've set up the Elevate Project, to help people do the exact same thing. That people don't need to stay in the position they're in right now, whether it's a job they don't like, whether it's an environment they don't want to be in, whether they're stuck in a thought process and a rut. I want people to know that they don't have to be like that, and there are steps that you can take to create life on their terms. So that's the journey I've been on, and I wanted to include this as my video because just to give you lot a bit of a background of where I've come from, and that, you know, I've not always like the person you might see on social media or in person, and things do change, big shifts happen. And that's exactly why I've started this little thing, to give you a chance to get to know me a little bit more as well. So I think that's it. I think that's the summary of my past years since 2018, the past 7 years. And that's what has changed. A lot has changed. And I'm so much happier now than ever before. So expect more videos like this. So for now, I'm going to tell you, you're my accountability partner. I'm going to be launching 2 YouTube videos a month. And one is going to be similar to like this, talking. But I'd love to know what you guys think as well. What more content do you think is valuable to you if you really like this? What do you think can help you? What would you want to see more of? Because there's going to be a lot more content coming from me. Hopefully you get some insight. Hopefully it gives you a bit of background into me and gives you some idea that, you know, if I've been able to change, I never came from anything special, then that should inspire you that if you want to make change, it can 100% happen. So there we go. That's me done. I can breathe now. But thank you very much for listening. I'm excited to hear what you think of this, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.